Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm Thrift Barringer alongside my esteemed host, Mr. Richard Holdridge. And we got a good one for you, as I know our normal time is Tuesday nights, and we sometimes do Sundays. We didn't do that this week because Richard is actually in Disney World with his family. We'll talk about that trip here in just a moment. But we had a lot going on here in this week of Georgia Alabama Sports Live and in the Tri-City area. So we're going to get to a lot. We got a lot to cover. We're going to touch on the James Harden trade in the NBA, NFL, Falcons talk, of course, Auburn, Georgia, and Alabama. And then we got at the end, not the, excuse me, at the beginning, some high school football we're going to touch on from last week, our high school showcase this week. So a lot to talk about. Richard, how are you?
Thrift, I'm doing great. I'm just excited with everything that's going on in the world of sports. And we get to do a show, and this is really what it's all about, is Georgia Alabama Sports Live just continues grinding, and we just got a lot of sports to cover.
Yeah, we do. And by the way, we made the announcement on Monday that we are now the home for CVCC men's and women's basketball games. We're excited to be able to do that. I actually called last night's game with Robert Edmond, and CVCC men's got a huge home opener win with Coach Douglas Bird, a longtime coach at South Georgia Tech, won championships there. Also coached at Eastern Florida the previous 2 seasons. Now he's at CVCC, and he's a guy that I believe in. He's got a talented roster, and I'm excited to see CVCC for the rest of the season. We have our girls game. Richard, you'll be on the call for that, Albany against Albany Tech on Friday at 5:30, and then of course we got our high school football showcase. But we made the announcement. Thank you to Ben Hicks, thank you to Champ Foster, thank you to everyone, the dean that I met, with the IT guy Warner, everyone believing in us. We're going to have a fantastic year as we continue to grow this thing, and we're excited to see what's going to happen for the rest of this season. But the CVCC boys team got off to a huge win as they head to now 1-0 in the season. And we can't wait to see how the rest of the schedule plays out for them. But let's go ahead and get into it. We got a lot to get into, so I don't want to spend too much time talking and blabbering on. Let's start with some of the games that happened this past week. Richard, you just put up a graphic and we'll start talking. First up, Northside upsets McIntosh. And I called this when we did our game day. I said, I think McIntosh is a bit overrated. I think Northside has had a couple games, including against Northgate. They could have won and been the 2 seed. 7-3 win. They did this without Caden Clay, by the way. Their starting quarterback was out. He may be out this week. That was their last game. So hopefully he'll be healthy as they come into the playoffs. But 6-4 in the season, finished as a 3 seed. I said 7-3, 8-2. A little bit down from what I predicted, but they got a young roster. They'll be even better next year. But good job by Coach O, sustaining success like he talked about in media days, and now Northside 6-4 heading into the playoffs as a 3 seed.
Thrift, I don't know if you went back and watched our rebroadcast of High School Game Day, which, by the way, did a phenomenal job live at the Campus Academy for Fall Festival.
And the Fall Festival turned out very well.
Truly was. I actually said this game was going to be a shootout. Boy, was I far from it. This was a defensive battle. Northside's defense had 4 interceptions, and really their defense put the clamps on McIntosh. And really, these two teams, they're known for scoring a lot of points. And Northside was able to get the big victory. And Harris County's excited. I mean, their first region title. And Northside, they already know who their opponent is going into the playoffs because they've already wrapped up the number 3 seed. I was looking ahead of the schedule. Like, pretty much they know what region they are going to play. So if they've already locked the number 3 seed and they know who their opponent is, they're going to have their opponent. And according to Max Preps, you got Northside, the number 3 seed. They are going to be on the road on Friday, November the 10th, taking on Jones County. Wow. So that they already know their opponent in the first round of the playoffs, and it's going to be on the road.
And we're going to see there's quite a few teams that are going to learn their seeding as we get ready for playoffs, which we're excited about. But big-time win for Coach O And they're doing this without their starting quarterback, relied on defense, and won 7-3. McIntosh plays Harris County this week. And McIntosh, even if they beat Harris County, is still going to be the 4 seed. The seedings are pretty much solidified here in this region. And that will be our showcase. We'll talk about that in a moment. But next, we'll go ahead and put up on there as Westover takes care of business against Shaw. So now Shaw is going to be the 4 seed. Westover, it was a close game in that first half. We were talking about it on Glenwood versus Chambers, which we'll do next. But Westover, Shaw just doesn't have the talent there. Westover goes 5-5. Shaw still made the playoffs 4-6, and something to build off of if you are Johnny Gardner and his staff.
Truly, Shaw is in their first year with head coach Johnny Gardner. You know, they do have some good pieces. Coach Garner is trying to build up that program to get them back to where they were known for, going to the state title game, winning the state title game, making a deep run in the playoffs in the early 2000s. And, you know, Coach Garner is the right coach to get to where they need to be. But it's going to take some time. Like everything, rebuilding, I mean, that's really what it's all about. If you want to get Shaw back to Shaw U, and they're still going to make the playoffs, you know, not a bad season, 4-6. They can improve on that and just continue building off that success.
Yeah, and we're excited to see where this team's heading for their future. Moving on from that, we're going to go ahead and talk about Glenwood and Chambers. The game that we were at, it was number 1 Glenwood against number 4 Chambers in the ASWA, the Alabama Sports Writer Association poll. By the way, I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. They came out with their weekly poll this week, and we'll save that for just a moment. But we had Chambers as a top 10 team. Now, I'll put the graphic up. I was talking more about my comments towards the new poll this week for the Alabama Sports Writer Association. But Chambers won a great game. It was probably, when it comes to down to the wire, it's the closest game we've had since Harris County and Russell County. Chambers wins 20-14. Glenwood loses in heartbreaking fashion. A couple things happened. Was very poorly officiated. I don't like going after officials, but I am a realist, and I will keep it real in the broadcast. It was pretty bad. They missed a call with Camden White scored a touchdown. Obviously, if you looked at the replay, wasn't even close to out of bounds. There are a lot of clipping and below the knee illegal hits that cost Samaje Williams and Lamont Burton chances to stay in the game, and hopefully they're not hurt for too long. That should have been called, and that's got to be taken out of the game, obviously. And I just was very disappointed to see that it came down to a few calls here there for the officials. But beside the fact, Coach Allen and Chambers, excellent job. As they had a good game plan. I thought that was one of the best offensive game plans we've seen from a team that doesn't have near the depth that Glenwood does, and they did a great job. And their quarterback, Luke Tarver, was excellent in the backfield and in the secondary. He has to play both ways. And they got the upset. Glenwood did get a break. Chambers was at their 1-yard line with about 3 minutes to go. If they score, they go up by 2 touchdowns and put it away with 3 touchdowns. Ball goes over their head. Glenwood gets it back. They score. And then, actually, no, the ball goes over their head, and they go all the way down and to the 1-yard line. Bad snap on Glenwood's part. Goes over his head. Now it's first and goal. Second and goal from the 13 instead of first and goal from the 1. And they just couldn't capitalize. Crow gets stopped maybe a half a yard, less than that, from a first down. And Chambers gets the upset. And now this is where I'm going to go off. The Alabama Sports Writer Association, after that game, which Glenwood lost by 6, they lost a turnover battle. I mean, if these 2 teams play on a neutral field, Glenwood probably wins 8 or 9 out of the 10 times. But because a lot of these sports writers don't really keep up with probably AISA football, they have now put Glenwood 4th. Number 1 is Lowndes Academy, a 1A school, undefeated. If you look at their schedule, it's not great. Number 2 is Chambers. I really don't even have a problem with that, either one of those, if that's what you want to do. This is where I get an issue. Lee Scott's number 3, Glenwood's number 4. Now, That makes no sense considering the fact they played each other and Glenwood won by 14 points. By the way, Chambers lost to Lee Scott at Lee Scott. If it was at Chambers, Lee Scott could have 2 losses. How is that even possible? Glenwood's number 4. So if you don't like their rankings, it's okay because we have our ratings. Richard, do you have a graphic? We don't have to put it up yet. I'm just asking, do you got a graphic? Because if so, we're going to throw that up there here in just a moment, our top 10 teams. But don't throw it up there yet, Richard. I want you to give your comments on the game. Glenwood loses to a good Chambers team that I expect to win the 2A championship. But I still would say Glenwood is the better team, but would not rank Chambers ahead of them. But there's my spiel. The ASWA should not be ranking stuff that they have no idea what they're covering. And obviously they don't cover AISA. That's why they have Glenwood below Scott.
They're clearly not watching the games from start to finish. Glenwood was absolutely dominant all the way until this Chambers game, which, by the way, they had 3 turnovers, and they lost the game by 6 points. Chambers, they had that hot start. They went up by 14. Dallas Crow had a couple of picks. I mean, it was just uncharacteristic of Dallas Crow, but yet they still had a chance to win it right at the end. He threw an incredible throw right into the breadbasket of Camden White.
Right. He's taking a beating all game, Richard, and yet still able to make those throws. Camden White came up huge, but just a heartbreaking loss.
Is absolutely heartbreaking. It really was. And to be honest with you, Thrift, look, I look at this game and I think, yes, it is possible that, Glenwood still has everything in front of them. They're not going to face Chambers.
I agree with what you're saying.
I do think that these two teams are championship caliber teams. And by the way, we did witness one of the best games all year that was broadcasted on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. It was great from start to finish. I mean, not the officiating and stuff, but just the play on the field from both teams.
Well, and that too, but Glenwood, obviously now we're losing this game. This is Coach Nelson's message, and we'll talk to him next week for their coaches show, but they obviously know that they can lose. They are beatable. At least God is good. And they got to take care of business next week in their playoff game on the 9th. That's a Thursday. We'll be there for that. And then they win. They'll play in the championship on the 16th. All right, let's move on. Let's hit on some of these games quickly before we can pull up our ratings poll graphic. Kendrick lost to Rutland. Kendrick's got a big one against Jordan. They're trying to get to win number 3 on the season, which would be an improvement from last year. Actually, would be win number 4, right? They're 3-6, so that'll be win number 4 on the season, which would be a major improvement.
Well, Thrift, they've only won 2. They beat Heritage and they beat Central.
Yeah, I stand corrected. It would be win number 3, which is a 2-game improvement, but they lost to Rutland, who was not a great team, 41-14. There's a couple others. Brookstone beat Strong Rock, and they're starting to get on that hot streak. Remember last year, losing in the Final Four? Big win against Strong Rock at home. They go to now 5-4, and if they win this week against Heritage, by the way, they may even play Heritage because remember Heritage had a forfeit against Pacelli last week or 2 weeks ago. So Pacelli does play Westfield this Friday, but Brookstone big win over Strong Rock question.
Yeah, absolute great win by the Brookstone Cougars. They're starting to utilize Lane Cannon. He's really a good running back. He really has. I mean, Lane Cannon is really, he's actually been that bell cow running back that Dimitri Flowers was last year. And so Brookstone's utilizing him, and you know that Rance Gillespie, coach there, is really coaching up the quarterbacks well. And Brooks Roney, he's really done a great job filling in, taking over as the starting quarterback for the Brookstone Cougars. And we all know who the starting quarterback was last year. Obviously, is Andrew Alford playing at Central. But Brookstone now is the 2nd seed in the region. Pacelli is number 1. Brookstone gets the number 2 seed with this win over Strong Rock. And that's settling up for a matchup where Brookstone will be able to get a playoff game, and possibly we could see another rematch in the semifinals between Brookstone and Bocelli.
And I can't wait to be able to see that. But so he's got a big one against Westfield, a team that is 5-4, decent season this year. A couple other games happen around the area. Richard, throw them up there real quickly as we updating scores throughout the year. I mean, throughout the night, Chambers and Glenwood Hardaway got blown out by Bainbridge 42-0. So that wasn't really a close game. Columbus gets beat pretty handily, 58-8. By the way, so their seasons basically have now come to an end, and Carver won a big one on the road to go to 7-3. They took care of Daughtery 30-0. So Carver now 7-3, winners of 5 straight, and the Spencer Green Waves, who had a big win at home on Thursday against Central Macon, 43-0. They are 1 win away from matching last year's win total at 8, and they have already clinched the region championship. Northeast Macon beat them, the number 2 team in the state. Spencer now a top 10 team.
Incredible.
Maybe able to make a hot run. They'll get the first 2 games at home, and I think they learned from last year. That was the first time they made the playoffs in a long time. So they lost in the first round. But this year, with that experience from last year, Coach Kegler, I think this is the year where they make at least the quarterfinals, maybe farther. So congratulations to Spencer. All right, Richard, let's go ahead and throw up our high school showcase of where we're going to be this Friday. Get something from the mug of power. As it gives our voice as much.
Is that your Thrift? Is that your chalice of supremacy?
Yeah, I was trying to be like Josh right there. Josh Payton, a good friend.
By the way, I want to say I hope he feels better. He has not had a late kick show the last couple because he's had food poisoning. He's lost his voice, and I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope he feels better.
Yeah, me too. High school football Friday showcase. McIntosh, who's 6-3. 2 of their losses are to Northgate and Northside. They are the 4 seed. And this is for Harris County senior night. They want to go out with a bang. They're 8-1. They want to finish the season undefeated at home. And the game is meaningless. Even if they do lose, they're still a higher seed as a number 1 seed. They're going to host 2 playoff games. But if they do win, they vie for maybe hosting 3 playoff games if they go 9-1. We'll be there. High school game day. Myself and Rick Beach will be on the call. Like I said, Richard will be at CVCC calling the girls' game against Albany Tech. So cannot wait to be there for that one, Richard. This is mainly a celebration for what has been a fantastic season for high school football in Harris County, and I can't wait to be on the call for their senior night against McIntosh. You can find it on the GAS Live broadcast page and our YouTube channel. Also, like us on Facebook, Georgia Alabama Sports Live, as we are excited to be there for this one. Game day at 6, kickoff at 7:30 on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
I got to tell you, I mean, that is just a great game that's going to be. Harris County has already wrapped up the region, but they're going to go out and, senior night, they're going to play tough. They want to have a special season, have one of their best records in years, go 9-1, all the momentum going into the playoffs, getting to host at least 2 playoff games, might even be 3 with the GHSA coin flip. I mean, we could possibly see a Harris County home game Thanksgiving weekend. I mean, there's a possibility that day after Thanksgiving on Black Friday, Harris County could be hosting a quarterfinal matchup. And we wish the Harris County Tigers nothing but the best. And I know that you and Rick Beach are going to do an awesome job closing out the regular season on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
It'll be our last regular season game for this year. We were going to do Auburn Smith Station. We had to switch it up because of having to now broadcast the CVCC girls game at 5:30. So we got basketball and football for you on Friday. Then on Sunday, we have the high school basketball media day. Cannot wait for that. 16 high schools around the area will be there for it. You'll be able to see it at 2 p.m. on Georgia Alabama Sports Live Facebook page and YouTube channel. It is going to be a lot of fun. being there, Richard, and just talking to all these coaches, the girls and boys programs from 16 different schools, 8 Muskogee County public schools. Then we got Pacelli, Calvary, Brookstone, Glenwood, then Central, some Station, Russell County, also in the mix, and I think Harris County as well. So that pretty much should be close to the 16. So can't wait to do it, and you can find the action at 2 p.m. on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Richard, let's go ahead and throw up the graphic of our poll. And if you don't got it, don't worry about it. We can just kind of say what our rankings are. And we'll have our final rankings released on Sunday. Me and Richard will work on that after Friday's games and see what's going to happen. But, Richard, if you don't got it, don't worry about it. We could really just save the rankings for Sunday. By the way, on Friday, if Calvary wins against Skipstone, they'll be region champs. They'll be team number 7 in our area that's region champs.
Wow.
They'll get to host not 1, but 2 playoff games and potentially being able to host the state championship. So we're going to be cheering for Coach Brunson. Either way, they're going to host at least 1 playoff game. So next week, we're going to have Glenwood's on Thursday. And as of now, we think Calvary's will be on Friday. So we're going to be having 2 playoff games next week for you, Glenwood and Calvary. And we may even have Harris County here in the next few weeks if they make the deep playoff run. Of course, you got Carver and Spencer hosting playoff games. Northside's going to be on the road. Central's about to start hosting playoff games as their playoffs start next week. Central going to be 10-0. Saw something. They're going to be ranked top 10. They're top 20 nationally, Richard. That's how good this Central team is. So excited. And, Richard, I'm assuming you don't have the graphic.
Well, I actually do. I've been sitting here trying to convert it to a PDF for the past 5 minutes, and apparently the program that we use, StreamYard, does not support JPEG. So I do have the graphic though, well, and we pretty much know who the number 1 team is. Obviously.
All right. Well, how about this? Until you can
that
get
would
it,
be.
We'll save it later on at the show. So let's go and get into college football. I was able to go and cover for Sports Visions Auburn against Mississippi State. It was Hugh Freeze's first win in the SEC as the Auburn head football coach, and Auburn started with the bang. Peyton Thorne was efficient, was hitting deep passes. I had a couple highlights you can see on Georgia Alabama Sports Live page, my page, and Sports Visions of the touchdown passes to Mr. Hooks, also a touchdown pass to the Jarquez Hunter out of the backfield. It was a great job by Hugh. Got off to a hot start. They were up 24-3 at halftime. Ended up winning 27-13. The defense did enough to hold on. The offense got off to a hot start. And just a great job by Auburn getting a big win. And now we got Vanderbilt this week, Arkansas, New Mexico State. All of those are winnable games. If they win all 3, 7-4.
Oh yeah.
Finish 7-5. I think that's a win. By what we've seen and this 4-game losing streak, and honestly the talent disparity with some of the top teams, finishing 7-5, 3-5 in the SEC. That's an improvement, and that's something Hugh Freeze can build on. But they got to win this week against Vanderbilt. The big win for Hugh Freeze, Richard.
Oh, huge win. And who would have thought? I mean, Peyton Thorne looked like that he was being utilized properly as a quarterback. This was a win they had to get. And I think that Auburn is going to beat Vanderbilt on the road. They're going to beat – I know that these are winnable games, that they could beat Vanderbilt, they could beat Arkansas, they could beat New Mexico State. Go into the Iron Bowl 7-4, and this team is just going to continue to get better. We know how crazy that it could get on the plains with Alabama and Auburn. So I'm looking forward to that. And 7-5 is not a bad season for Auburn.
Yeah, it's not, and I think it's an improvement from what Harsin left bare in the cupboard for Hugh Freeze. The Georgia Bulldogs mollywopped Florida. Georgia, Mr. Beck has been great. They're on pace to maybe score more points than last year's team. They're averaging 41 a game. They didn't like they missed a beat without Brock Bowers. and they just took Florida, who went up 7-0. I was like, man, this may be a close game. Did not score another point until the end. 43-20, the final. That Carson Beck, that offense, Mike Bobo dialing up all the right calls. And defensively, Georgia is just going to always be a juggernaut along with Kirby Smart's there. So Georgia is a few wins away. They got a big one this weekend. I'll be covering it. They take on Missouri. And
yeah, that's right.
This is for the SEC East Championship because I think Missouri does play Tennessee next week. They beat Kentucky. They're 7-1. If Georgia beats them, it's over with because Georgia's not going to lose two games. I don't think they're going to lose at Tennessee. Tennessee's already got 2 losses. So this is for the SEC East Championship. Missouri and Georgia. And then Georgia does play Ole Miss next week. And if Ole Miss beats A&M this week, they'll be a top 10 team maybe. They're number 11 in the college football playoff initial ranking. So that's going to be another big one, but not as big as this week's because of Missouri being number 12, one, and number 2, they have the best chance out of any of the other SEC East teams as of now to make it to the SEC Championship. So, but they took care of business against Florida. Florida's just not even close. This rivalry hasn't been close. A great job by Georgia. They were up 36-7 at one point. This game was over with by halftime, in my opinion.
When I started watching this game, Florida got the ball first, and I noticed that Graham Mertz, he was able to do whatever he wanted. I mean, that up-tempo offense, and Florida jumped up with a 7-0 lead. Georgia matched the score, and Florida could have just went toe-to-toe with Georgia, but Florida had a bonehead mistake going for it on 4th down. They got a blocked punt. I mean, some miscues, and Florida just could not crawl out of that hole. And Georgia is showing that they are still a good team even without Brock Bowers. They have a lot of talent, and Oscar Delp had just an amazing one-handed catch. That's something that Brock Bowers would have done. But I think that Georgia, they do have a tough game next week against Missouri. I actually think that Ole Miss game in 2 weeks is going to be tough. And remember, Ole Miss still not out of the SEC West race. I mean, what if Alabama loses to LSU and loses to Auburn? If Ole Miss wins out, they are going to be SEC West championship because they have the tiebreaker with LSU.
Yeah, and that's what they would need. If it becomes a 3-way tie, I think LSU would be the higher-ranked team. I don't know how the tiebreakers work, but it'd be tough for Ole Miss to be able to make it. But and speaking of which, LSU taking on Alabama. Both of them had a bye. This is in Tuscaloosa. Number 14 LSU, number 8 Alabama. Alabama's got off some slow starts these past few weeks. They saw against Tennessee, against A&M, and they end up winning both of those games. But you get off slow to LSU, who is averaging 47 points a game. In their losses, they put up 24 and 49. Jaden Daniels has 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's done it with his legs as well. He's my Heisman front runner, especially if they beat Alabama. So if they get off to a slow start against them, even though LSU's defense has been susceptible to the pass, Milroe's not known for being a great passer. So we'll see. I think this is going to come down to who can get a stop when needed. And if Alabama's defense can create some turnovers, negate Jaden Daniels' legs, I think they'll win this game 31-24. It's going to be close, but I'm excited. It's going to be a good one. It's the night game on CBS. There's a triple header. You got Rutgers and Ohio State, I think, and then you got Missouri, Georgia at 3:30, Ohio State, Rutgers at 12, and then at 7:45, 8 o'clock, Alabama and LSU. This game's always up for who's going to win the SC West. Obviously, this is the SC West championship. If Alabama does win this, they pretty much clinch it, and it's over with. So we got SC West and we got SEC East championship up for grabs tonight, just like last year. Instead of being in Tennessee and Georgia, it's Georgia, Missouri, Alabama, and LSU.
Thrift, I can't wait. I mean, we're going to have some amazing college football games. And, if you want to throw in Washington and USC, that's going to be another big top 25 matchup. And we just had we just did have yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Before you go into Pac-12, if LSU does beat Alabama, the tide is starting to turn, and no pun intended with that when it comes to the SEC West, because that's back-to-back years, and Brian Kelly doesn't even have a full recruiting class in. That means 4 years of one recruiting class. He's only been there now 2. That's worrisome. And you already got what you're dealing with at Georgia. A&M's eventually going to have talent. They're going to win. Auburn's getting better. Alabama better wake up, and this is a year they think they can – everything's in front of them because they play a lot of their tough games at home, just like against Tennessee and now against LSU. So, but you're right. There's those other great games around USC and Washington. You saw the college football playoff. I'm not even going to be the type that's going to discuss it because who cares what the rankings are 5 weeks before the season ends. I don't care if they put Ohio State 1, not Georgia. So none of the rankings bother me at all. But a couple good games this week. But obviously, I think the best 2 are between Alabama, LSU, and Georgia, Missouri, both in the SEC.
Yeah, nothing really matters when it comes to the college football rankings. You just gave Georgia bulletin board material by putting Ohio State number 1. I mean, they're just – I don't know what they're thinking when they're doing that. I mean, maybe strength of schedule because they did play Notre Dame and they won a close game, but they really don't mean anything, especially this early in the season. But a very interesting ranked opponent. They might be playing for – the last time for a long time is Bedlam, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. With Oklahoma going to the SEC in 2024, it may be years before they play Oklahoma State again. And this is going to be a big game because if Oklahoma State wins, they could be in the driver's seat for the Big 12 championship.
That's a game that's underrated, by the way. I mean, Oklahoma State started 2-0, then they got smacked at home by South Alabama 33-7 in week 3. Then they lost at Iowa State, and everybody's like, all right, Oklahoma State's done. They got no chance. Well, since then, they brought off wins against Kansas State, Kansas, who just beat Oklahoma, by the way. Kansas State, Kansas, West Virginia, at West Virginia, and then this week, Cincinnati. They play at home. They beat Oklahoma. They would then make that Big 12 championship, not Oklahoma, to play Texas. And who would have thought that was the case 3 weeks ago when Oklahoma upset Texas in the Red River Robbery? So I think that's a great point. Then, as you said, this may be the last time these 2 teams face. You got to throw that one in there, too. Obviously, Oklahoma State's only ranked 22nd. Oklahoma ranked number 10. But throw rankings out when these 2 teams face. And that's 3 good ones. You mentioned USC, Washington. It's going to be a good week of college football. Can't wait to see how all these games play out, and especially the ones that are going to be in the SEC. So can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
For Missouri, Georgia, quickly. Missouri wants this to be a high-scoring game. Defensively, they gave up a lot of points. They gave up 49 to LSU. I think they're going to give up a lot to Georgia. The only way they upset them if they make this a high-scoring game and Georgia turns the ball over and plays unlike Georgia football. I don't see that. I think Georgia wins by 2 to 3 touchdowns. They're just that much more talented than everyone else, including Tennessee in the SEC East. Any other thoughts, Richard? USC, obviously. Could have lost last week against Cal. That would have been 3 straight losses. They're USC, until Lincoln Riley decides to change things culturally with his program, are going to struggle because of their defense. And that is, I don't know what he's going to do. He's not going to do anything right now, but moving forward, you wasted 2 years of Caleb Williams because your defense sucks. Clemson, Dabo Swinney, just shut up. Just stop talking. Because obviously every time you run your mouth, you put your foot in it. Every single time. And now, why are you even defending yourself with critics? Why is it firing you up? These are Clemson fans that are spoiled, entitled. You gave them 7 straight years of playoffs, 2 championships, 4 national championship games, so that they think they're entitled to win it all every year. They forgot before you got there, this was a mediocre team that 8-9 wins was a great season. Now they're expecting to win a national championship every year because of what you set the standard as, and they're questioning you. I wouldn't even deal with that if I was him. I understand why he's mad, but trying to debate and defend yourself with fans is never a good idea. And obviously, if you want to turn this around, you better buy into the NIL, because otherwise Florida State's about to lap you on what they're doing in the transfer portal.
And Thrift, remember, Florida State is ranked 4th in the college football rankings, and they have a pretty easy schedule in the ACC. Right now, remember, they did away with the Coastal and the Atlantic Division. They would play Louisville in the first round. And how about Georgia Tech? I mean, I know they had 2 bad losses, one to Boston College and one to Bowling Green, but Georgia Tech, with 2 more wins, they would be bowl eligible in Brent Key's first year as full-time head coach. I think that Haynes Keene is actually a decent enough quarterback. I mean, I never would have guessed that Georgia Tech would get to go to a bowl game. And if they beat Virginia, they are 1 more win away. I think they'll get that win against Virginia, and then they host Syracuse at Bobby Dodd Stadium in a couple of weeks. And, who knows? They might even beat Clemson because both teams are 4-4. It seems like Clemson's going in the wrong direction, and Georgia Tech is in the up and coming.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you brought them up. Big win against North Carolina this past weekend. Michigan, everything. I don't care about the cheating scandal until we get more information. I don't really give it hot takes, but I will say this for a hot take. It's hard for me to say Michigan's one of the best teams, and I know we think about what they've done the previous 2 regular seasons, and they dominated, and they made it the playoff, and they beat Ohio State. And honestly, last year they should have beat TCU and played the national championship. But with that said, Richard, they have played 2 teams with winning records: Minnesota at 5-3 and Rutgers at 6-2. Now, they've won every game by 20 points or more, even some 30 points. But I know quite a few teams that be undefeated and be dominating with that schedule. So I don't know what to believe with Michigan. They do play at Penn State next week. And then, of course, you got the game against Ohio State the last week of the season. But they should be ashamed for this schedule that they had to play. And it's atrocious. It's bad. But they're not getting penalized for it. So if you're Jim Harbaugh, why not keep playing East Carolina, UNLV, and Boise, Bowling Green State University? You don't get penalized. You blow them out, and you're undefeated. So that's my 2 cents on that. And the Big Ten is down compared to years past. Pac-12 is better than them. You got Penn State, who can't beat Michigan and Ohio State, so they're basically a top 20 team. And you got 2 teams in the top 10. Everybody else is mediocre or decent. Compared to the Pac-12 that's got, seems like 10 teams that are ranked in the top 20. All right, from college football, let's touch on the Falcons. Thank God they decided to take out Desmond Ridder, because when they put in Taylor Heineke, they almost had a chance to win. The fact that they lost to Tennessee 28-23 with first-year starter, rookie quarterback Will Levis, who had a great game, but DeAndre Newton-Hopkins, Richard, has been a non-factor this whole season and has 3 touchdowns for 140 yards. How does that happen against a Falcons secondary that's one of the best in the game? So they are the epitome of a 500 team, and I can't keep blaming Ridder. It goes on Arthur Lynch. Who knows? What if Van Jefferson catches that? Does Falcons go on to score a touchdown? I don't know. But I do know that anybody's better than what Ridder's been. He has been terrible. And if he is not the starting quarterback and Heineke is, heck, the Falcons may be 6-2 right now instead of 4-4. They got to move him on. They do play Minnesota, who lost Kirk Cousins, but they traded for Josh Dobbs, so they still think they can make the playoffs. That's how bad. Right now, even if the Falcons didn't win the division, they'd still be a 7 seed. That's how bad the NFC is.
Right.
But the Falcons' schedule says they should win 13 games. That's before the season started. Now they're 4-4, 12-5, 11-6. That's the worst they should go, and they should be division champs. They're better than every team in this division. The Bucs suck. The Saints, are you kidding me? And the Panthers have punted on the season. They don't win this division, they should fire Arthur Smith. With this schedule and this bad of a division, if they don't win it or win 11 games, it's Arthur Smith who's the one to blame. Fire him. Get someone in here with this talent, a quarterback. You can be buying for maybe an NFC championship. Until then, you're going to be going win one, lose one every week and finish at 500.
I agree, Thrift. Taylor Heineke has been named the starting quarterback for the Minnesota game this Sunday, which, by the way, both teams are 4-4. I just don't see a situation where they go back to Desmond Ridder if Taylor Heineke's winning games. I mean, you play the quarterback that gives you the best chance to win the game. I know that Arthur Smith believes in his guy. I mean, this is the guy that the Falcons drafted, and they want to say that we did not whiff on this quarterback. Even though there are some things that Desmond Ridder does that's okay, he turns the ball over too much. He had 3 fumbles in the last game that he started and finished, and then he had 3 interceptions the week before. The Falcons have too much talent to win games. I mean, they need to be winning more games, especially in an easy division like this. And I was looking at the schedule, and they take on Arizona. I mean, they have some winnable games, and I think that Taylor Heineke is going to be the starter, and until otherwise. I mean, this is the right decision.
I think so too. And if you're Desmond Ridder, you can't blame no one but yourself because everyone's giving you opportunities. You just crap the bed. And no matter how much film you watch, obviously watching hours and hours of film and being prepared and being the first one in, last one out is not helping you make good decisions and holding on to the football during games. All right, let's talk NBA now. And this will be the last thing before we put up our ratings poll. James Harden gets traded. Now, I heard Bill Simmons say this, Richard. We called them the dumb Clippers, which, in essence, they did give up all the draft picks until 2030. But, and Steve Ballmer, why not bring him in? Why not try something? Obviously, you put all your eggs in a basket with Kawhi and Paul. You probably shouldn't have done that a while back. But at this point, trading for James Harden, what is that going to change? You got Westbrook, you got Harden, you got Kawhi, and Paul George. 5 years ago, this is the all-star starting lineup. But now we got guys that are past their age, overcoming a lot of injuries. I just can't stand the way James Harden goes about handling his business and how he wants to get out of teams and trade it for trade. Obviously, one of the more talented scorers the league has ever seen. And that being said, when you got the Warriors, you got the Suns, you got the Nuggets, you got the Lakers. The West is loaded, man. Timberwolves are going to be decent. The Pelicans have started off pretty good this year. Heck, even Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs are managing to win games. By the way, Lakers and Clippers, being the rivals that they are, the Kings, your Kings, the Thunder. I mean, it's a loaded West. Didn't even mention Dallas, who hasn't even lost a game this season. I don't know if I want to say the Clippers are going to win it all. They still got a good 9 deep, but until they got someone to guard Jamal Murray, which I don't think they do. Westbrook's old. Harden doesn't play defense. Paul George's not the same defender, and Kawhi's a shell of himself. Who they're going to guard Nikola Jokic? I didn't think they won a championship with this, but I also don't blame Steve Ballmer to try anything. He's grasping at straws. On the flip side, for the Philadelphia, I see them being a huge buyer here in the next few weeks. They know that it's about to be time where Joel Embiid's 30 years old. He knows he's only probably got 3 or 4 years of prime left because he's big and because of the injuries he had to endure early in his career. So he doesn't want to waste them on teams rebuilding or not having a chance to win a title. So they're going to try to get another superstar in there with the draft capital they got, a bunch of contracts that will expire at the end of this year. I think it's a good trade for Philly. I understand the trade for Clippers. Still not ready to put them in championship caliber. What about you, Richard?
I'm looking at the whole landscape of the NBA. I know it's early. Right now, the Boston Celtics have a 4-0 record. How about the Atlanta Hawks? 3 straight wins. Yep. They got the win over Washington, a team they're supposed to beat. Philadelphia is 2-1, and
that was a big win.
Big win, and You look at the Bucks are 2-2. I mean, that's a surprise. I thought the Bucks would be 3-4-0 right there with the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
I mean, you have teams on the up and coming like Detroit, like Brooklyn. By the way, Cam Thomas, remember that name because he's going to win Most Improved Player of the Year. He's having a phenomenal season for Brooklyn.
Yeah, and it's early in the season, but Cam Thomas.
It is.
He's a bucket getter. He can fill it up quick. The guy can score flat out the basketball whenever he wants. Ben Simmons. I mean, Brooklyn's going to be one of those competitive, feisty, pesty teams. I think the best team in basketball is not the Nuggets. It's the Boston Celtics. The way they're playing, 155 points on a Pacers team that I had going to the playoffs this year. Jaylen
Absolutely.
Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis is playing his best basketball of his career. Drew Holiday, you added a more efficient, better leader. Maybe not as good a defender. Maybe he is. Maybe about the same, but a better scorer. Drew Holiday over Marcus Smart. Derek White has been he's averaging 15 a game, and then your bench like Sam Hauser, like Peyton Pritchard, who you didn't have to trade out. Horford, you got coming off the bench that can score points. I love what I see with Boston. They're the best team in the East, and then it's Milwaukee. But it's early in the season, Richard. We know this, and you're not going to find an MVP champion right now. But I think it's good that Philadelphia moved on from James. Now when it gets to December, they'll have a team that is starting to find its groove. They could hopefully find a superstar to implement and put in place. But the Hawks winning 3 straight after starting 0-2, losing to the Knicks at home, I was like, not the start you wanted. Since then, they've won 3 straight, one at Milwaukee by 17, by the way. I think this next month, the Hawks will start extending their lead, hopefully, in the Eastern Conference, in their division with Miami, Orlando, Charlotte. That's all vying in Washington, vying as the division winner this year. So Hawks win 3 straight, big wins for them. But the NBA, it's my favorite time of year. You got NBA, you got the World Series, you got so much going on right now. But the James Harden trade, I think it was more of a win for Philadelphia, if you were to ask me. But Wembanyama, even though it's early, if you don't think there's promise with him, if you don't think he's a superstar in the making, I don't think you really know basketball. Obviously, he's got to put weight on him. He's going to get bullied by grown men that are older than him, that have been in the league longer, they've worked out, they have different training regimens than Wembanyama did. He is only 18 years old. Give him 6 years, the guy's going to be dominating this league. And if you don't think that, it's hard for me to trust your basketball knowledge and IQ.
And you also have to trust the process with Wemby. Under Popovich's system, you know he's going to be set up for success. I mean, did you see that game where the Spurs beat the Suns on the road?
You know you got to pay Sam Hinkie for saying trust the process, right?
Oh, yeah.
The former GM for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Gonna have to own that one.
The process as they kept tanking for 4 straight years. But yeah, you're right. They came back, and the Suns didn't have Bradley Beal or Devin Booker.
That's true, but it's still a good win.
It is a good win, and great job by Victor Wembanyama, who has a lot of promise in this league. I like what I've seen from Dame and Milwaukee, but again, it's only been 4 or 5 games in the season. It's hard to find out anything.
Right.
But the main point we were trying to talk about was the James Harden trade, which I think Philadelphia definitely won that one. All right, let's put up our ratings poll real quick, Richard. And here is our ratings. Number 1, Central. Number 2, they didn't change. They are 9-0 on the season. Harris County 8-1. Number 2, Glenwood. Number 3, as they lost to Chambers, we brought them down, put Harris County up because Harris County only lost to Troup County. And I think that's a better loss, if I can use that word, than Glenwood is against Chambers.
Absolutely.
I think Harris County's been one of the best teams aside from Central in this area. Plus, they are the bigger school, but we're not doing head-to-head. But right now, Harris County, number 2, number 3, Glenwood, tied with Pacelli. Obviously, they beat Pacelli, so they're going to be ahead of them. Carver's number 5, 7-3, didn't move anywhere. Spencer won 7-2. Lee Scott 9-1. And then number 8 is Auburn. They're going to finish 8-2. Number 9, Northside, big win over McIntosh. And then Flint River and Chambers. I'd probably put Chambers ahead of Flint River. I don't know. Flint River's been killing everybody. They just went.
They have
an undefeated private school down there. Shout out to Joe Howard at the Flint River Wildcats. But there's our top 10. You can either love it, you can hate it, but you got to respect it.
You can debate us.
So any thoughts on this, Richard?
Oh, once again, I mean, it's a good list. I mean, I agree. The Chambers Academy, after beating Glenwood, which that was a huge upset, that we could put them up on there. But, I mean, you got Auburn, Northside, I mean, just great teams. Even though Northside was playing without Caden Clay, still getting the win over McIntosh, I felt like we had to reward Northside. I didn't want to drop Northside because 6-4, but they, look at the 4 teams. They lost to LaGrange, they lost to Harris County, they lost to Northgate. I mean, those are all great teams, and they did lose to Sumter County, but Northside is starting to fire on all cylinders, and I think they get a win in the playoffs as a number 3 seed because they go on the road against Jones County. But I didn't want to drop Northside. Lee Scott just continues rolling. Their only loss was to Glenwood. I mean, it is very tough to move teams after 1 week, especially if they just keep winning.
I'm with you. And we'll have another ratings when we're coming out next week. But these are ours. And looking at this list, Harris County, Central, Glenwood, Pacelli, Carver, Spencer, 6 teams already region champs. And then Chambers is also region champ. You want to add them in there. That's 7. Flint River, 8. And if Calvary can beat Skipstone on Friday, they will make 9 teams in our coverage areas.
Incredible.
Incredible football that is being played right now. Richard.
Absolutely.
By the way,
absolutely incredible.
Basketball starts on Monday. We won't do our preview yet. Actually, you know what? We'll probably do our high school basketball preview show on Tuesday. I know games start on Monday, but, I mean, it's super early. Heck, the good tournaments, they don't even start until next week, Richard. Auburn does play Baylor on Tuesday night. I can't wait for that one, 9 o'clock on ESPN. But the Champions Classic, that's got Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, and Kansas in it, that's not till next Tuesday. That's when I feel like college basketball really starts. Duke plays Michigan State 2 versus 4, and then number 1 Kansas plays number 16 Kentucky. So that's what I think. And then you of course got the Maui and everything else that happens, during Thanksgiving week. So Tuesday, our high school basketball preview show we're going to be doing. We already did NBA, so can't wait to do high school basketball. I may even contact my guy Buckets, talk some college basketball with us. I think he'd be perfect at doing it. Jonathan Shusky, who's also the on the broadcast team for the Stephen F. Austin team. So I'll keep that as a teaser. How about that?
There you go.
Tomorrow night, 5:30, Richard, Albany Tech versus CVCC. Then later on, you have at 7:30, or 6 o'clock, if you will, on Georgia Alabama Sports Live page, high school game day, 7:30, right after CVCC. You got Harris County versus McIntosh. Sunday, high school basketball media day put on by the Courier Echo Latino. Wayne Gales, thank you so much. We'll be doing that live from Chili's 16 high schools, girls and boys programs that are going to be there, coached to players. Can't wait for that. Then next week, we got playoffs starting in football. We've still got basketball games galore. CVCC, high school basketball also starts next week. We really won't start our high school basketball coverage until after Thanksgiving, but we're excited about everything that's happening here in the Tri-City area. We can't wait to be a part of it. But this weekend, Friday, Albany Tech, men's, women's for CVCC, home opener. 6 o'clock, high school game day live from Harris County McIntosh, and then the kickoff is at 7:30, and then at 2 p.m., high school basketball media day. Richard, any more Final thoughts before we get out of here.
I can't wait. It's just a lot of great matchups. I'm excited that basketball is finally here as we wrap up the high school football season, and we are just getting started here at Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Just getting started, and CBCC, man, Joe Richardson, the new coach for the girls team, getting his first game under his belt for a girls program that has won 6, I think, or 7 straight ACCC championships. So that's how good that
Incredible.
team is when Rod Roberts was the coach. Then, of course, we know the winning ways of CBCC boys with Doug Key, which the gymnasium's named after. Then Richard Mahone, Coach Mahone, and then now Ben Hicks, and of course Douglas Bird, who's now the head coach. So great win tonight. Wednesday night against Reinhardt. They won by 50. They were just a better program that night. They go on the road to Mississippi, and then we're doing Albany Tech and CBCC girls on Friday. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Share, like, subscribe, and be a part of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live family. We're about to be hitting gun-ho during basketball season. This is where me and Richard cut our butter last year. This is where we did a lot of our work. We started live streaming. It was during the basketball season. So we have fun during football, but it's almost basketball time, my favorite time of the year. And then we got baseball, softball, soccer next. Just a lot. The Lions coming up. River Dragons are playing. And next Tuesday as well, I guess we won't have our high school basketball preview show on Tuesday. We may have to do it the next week because next Tuesday we'll be live from Happy Hour Bar and Grill. I completely forgot about that. And I plan on having Tom Callahan on. I plan on having either WRBL, WTBM on, Steve Smith, Coach Fannin, high school football, River Dragons, basketball. Ben Hicks is going to join from CBCC. It is going to be an incredible lineup. Cannot wait to do it.
Can't wait.
Richard Holdridge, who had a lot of fun in Disney World, recuperated, had fun with his girls. He'll be back with us tomorrow. I'm Thrift Barringer saying thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Albany Tech, CBCC girls, 5:30, 6 o'clock high school game day, and 7:30 is Harris County Macintosh kickoff.